Mets have been climbing uphill in their home games so far this season. Met fans coming out hoping they can get even with the Phillies on another steamy afternoon in New York. At Citi Field in New York, Pix 11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball. Today, the Mets play the Philadelphia Phillies. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling with you today as the Mets play the middle game of their series against the Phillies. Phillies won last night 13-8 in the first game after the All-Star break as the Mets continue to struggle here at Citi Field. They played very well on the road, over 500, but here at home, a whole different story.
Well, you know, they're one of seven teams that are playing under over 500 on the road. They've been struggling ever since Terry's tenure. You see those numbers right there. But I'm more concerned about the present this year. They have struggled at home. Is it a carryover from 2007, 2008? I don't think so. David Wright's the only member of that team left standing. I just think that it's a young team. I have always said, Gary, that I feel a lot more pressure. I felt more pressure playing at home than on the road. I think maybe that's kind of here. They want to win. They're struggling. They try too hard. All those things. There's an old adage in baseball. When you want to win, you play 500 on the road and you make hay at home. Well, this team is playing over 500 at home, but not making hay. On the road and not making hay at home.
And especially against the Phillies, who've now won 7 straight games here at Citi Field. And Zach Wheeler will try and put an end to that as he comes back 10 days after his best start yet as a major leaguer.
You know, you mentioned that he started his home at Atlanta. He started his first game for the Mets. He started against the old team, the Giants, against who drafted him, and he was outstanding. Now he gets his start against the Philadelphia Phillies. Other Mets pitchers, starting pitchers, have faltered. Maybe Zach Wheeler can get on a good roll. Best thing about Wheeler so far, runners on base, they're only batting 140.
Now, early in the season, Cole Hamels was a struggling pitcher for the Phillies in the first year of a big 6-year contract, but he has begun to turn it around lately.
Although it's not a total aberration. He's given up 5 earned runs or more 6 times this year. That's why their record is not very good. But he's been great, and the Phillies have won their last 4 times. He's taken the mound.
So it's the Mets and the Phillies on a hot day in New York. Wheeler against Hamels. All the action coming your way this afternoon right here on Pix 11. Here's as your #1 mobile app for live baseball, available for iPhone, iPad, Android, and BlackBerry 10. At Bat delivers Mets baseball with live audio, stats, highlights, and more. Text at Bat to 31826 or visit Mets.com for details. Keys to the game brought to you by Jaguar. See the new model year lineup at JaguarUSA.com.
Well, let's see if I can do this better than I did on the Open. Zach Wheeler, of course, has to go deep into the game. The bullpen was really taxed yesterday. And, you know, they had 4 days off. It's been tough on them. They've been really taxed for around a month. And, of course, Cole Hamels has been the story. He's really turned his bad start around. He's been pitching great. And the Mets, look at that against left-handers. How about that? They are killing them, and let's keep it up if you're a Met fan.
That's a long stretch of starts against left-handed pitchers a couple of weeks ago. Now back into that mode again today and tomorrow. First pitch from Citi Field is coming right up. When carrying the Mets lineup card, Mick Villmeyer for the Phillies. And with his back to you, rookie home plate umpire Will Little. Our first look at him behind the plate. Starting lineup brought to you by your local Tri-Honda dealer, and the same starting 8 for the Phillies. Interesting, you've got an older team, day game after a night game, but Charlie Manuel runs out the same 8 that he played last night, and why not after 13 runs and 15 hits? And that's the unit that'll go up against Zach Wheeler in his first ever start against Philadelphia.
Well, you'll look at Zach Wheeler's numbers here. He's had 2 starts that have not been good, but the other 3 have been outstanding. Less than an earned run given up in all those starts, and his last one was the best by far. Aggressive in the strike zone, aggressive with his fastball. He threw it over 70% of the time. Mixed in his slider, mixed in a little bit of a curveball, mixed in a few changeups, but very aggressive.
And we'll take a look at the Metropolitan, your Metsy defense, brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. And Anthony Recker right now, I think, has been doing a heck of a job behind the plate, getting some big home runs, really improved defensively back there, and also has given John Buck a chance to get a respite. And as a result, Buck has been hitting much better. There's Anthony.
Recker caught Wheeler's debut in Atlanta and has not caught him since, but he's back there today. Zach making his 6th start today. He's 3-1. He's only the 4th Met pitcher ever to get 3 wins in his first 5 starts, starting their career as a Met. Tom Seaver is 1. Octavio Dotel is another. Only 1 Met pitcher ever had 4 wins in his first 5 starts, and you'll never get it. Jason Hakami.
Hakami.
What year?
Soft tossing lefty.
from? What time was?
How come he was early 90s, mid 90s?
Blackout period.
Here's your umpiring crew, the aforementioned Will Little. Our first look at him behind the plate. Mike Winters, the crew chief. There's Mark Wagner and Tim Timmons, who had the plate last night. So on another hot day, the weather's supposed to break later today. We should have cooler temperatures tomorrow, but it's in the mid 90s as we start play today. Jimmy Rollins will lead things off. He led off the game with a base hit last night. In fact, he's now hit in 15 straight games against the Mets. Rollins at .257 for the year. It'll be Rollins, then Michael Young and Chase Utley for the Phillies, who with their win last night are now a game over 500. That's been their high water mark for the season. And Wheeler's first pitch of the day is inside for ball one.
Always like a first pitch fastball in to kind of set the tone inside. He moved Rollins off the plate.
Well, we've certainly seen it in his last two starts against the White Sox and the Giants. He has been throwing predominantly fastballs early in the game, which is something he was not necessarily doing in his couple of starts before that.
I think he did it in the first start, against the Braves. But after that, trying to mix all his pitches in, keep it simple. Fastball, slider, go get him.
Rollins hits one deep to right, chasing Bird back to the warning track, and right at the wall, leaps and he can't get it. It's a home run for Jimmy Rollins to lead off the game. Rollins with his 5th home run of the year breaks a long home run drought and gives the Phillies an instant 1-0 lead.
Well, Rollins has always shined against the Mets. That goes back to those days with Jose Reyes here, the competition of the shortstops. Rollins thrives on that spotlight in New York, and here he is right here, leadoff home run.
He had gone 161 at bats without a home run, and he breaks that drought. May 31st, the last time that Rollins went deep. Michael Young takes a strike.
Well, Bird just runs out of room here. He's there. Just enough.
So the Phillies, who pounded Jeremy Hefner early and often last night, getting off to a quick start this afternoon. Young was 1 for 4 last night. He hit a 3-run homer.
It only seems like Jimmy Rollins gets a hit or two in every game against the Mets. Now 16 straight games.
Chase Utley on deck. So Wheeler's now given up 5 home runs in 28 innings.
Well, when you pitch from behind, it was a 2-0 count. You know, no matter how hard you throw, the good hitters are going to look for their pitch. So it's all the key. He had success run. He threw so wonderfully in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Got ahead of hitters.
With the 27th home run Rollins has hit against the Mets. Last night, Chase Utley hit his 30th against the Mets. So those two have been doing a lot of damage in Flushing for a long time.
It's a case of a young pitcher having 10 days off, and he is throwing the ball as hard as he's thrown it since he's come up. We've seen him not necessarily where he wants to throw it.
3-2 to Young, and he fouls off the fastball at 96. It's an interesting contrast, isn't it, Ronnie?
It is. It's you know, he recognizes the moments to get the bull his neck and get a little tougher. He's going to have to do a little better job here with, of course, obviously, guys leading off innings and with no one on base.
And you got to keep in mind that this is only his 6th start. He's going once around the league. Hitters haven't seen him yet. They do know. I do see one thing the hitters are doing. They are gearing on fastball on him. And why not? I mean, that's his best pitch. So what we saw in San Francisco with him mixing his pitches up and up and getting the curveball over the breaking stuff, he's going to win if he can do that.
Quintanilla plays it on the backhand and throws out Michael Young for the first out of the day.
You know, if you're trying to value both these pitchers and evaluate them, Gary and Keith, think about that 3-2 count on Young right there. Matt Harvey's at a place where he could throw the 3-2 slider and put him away. Wheeler's not there yet.
Is that something where later in a game he might feel more comfortable doing that?
I would think so, but in the first inning, you know, he's probably too pumped up.
Get a rhythm.
Now Chase Utley, 2 for 5 last night, a triple and a home run, drove in 3 runs, and the fastball sails outside 1-0.
I mean, the same thing happened with Nolan Ryan, Gary, early in his career. He was wild, a big hard thrower with a good curveball, and just wasn't refined, and Nolan found it out. He figured it out.
Harvey notwithstanding, power pitchers might be a little bit like power hitters. Didn't Gary say that you were told once that it takes power hitters 2 to 4 years before you can really evaluate what they are going to become?
And I think it's important to recognize that everybody's different. You know, there are some players, whether they're pitchers or hitters, who can come up and dominate early, but not everybody's that way. See what Harvey did in his first 5 starts and what Wheeler has done in his.
And I think Wheeler's needs to be up in the big league level. He's worthy of having a big league uniform on, not pitching down in AAA.
There's a strike to Utley, 3-1.
That's a good call, Keith. He needs to be here. This team is, wants to get to 500 here at some point, and he'll be a big part if they do.
Hey, let him take his lumps up here and learn. That's how you learn, by your mistakes.
3-2 now to Utley, with Dominic Brown waiting on deck.
Oh, geez. I knew it was sunny.
The creamsicle.
I think it's a wig.
Better.
And Utley grounds a roller down to Satin, and that's the second out. So a couple of ground ball outs for Wheeler after the leadoff home run by Rollins. And now Dominic Brown will come to bat. Brown hit a 2-run bomb into the Pepsi porch last night among his 3 hits. Now second in the National League with those 24 home runs, and 4th in the league with 69 runs batted in, having himself a breakout season. Brown now has 44 extra base hits, which is 3rd in the league. And he pops this one up. Might be playable. Wright and Recker converge, and Recker gets there first. Side retired. The Phillies get off to a fast start. Jimmy Rollins with a leadoff home run. Mets come to bat down 1-0. Dealer. Mets facing a left-hand starter, so Josh Satin gets a start at first base. Same for Juan Lagares in center field, as the Mets go up against Cole Hamels for the 3rd time this year.
Well, 90 and 61 coming into this year, rewarded with that huge $144 million contract, and now the last 4 or 5 starts starting to pitch like he has in the past.
Began his year 2-11, but in 3 starts in July, he's 2-0 with a 1.57 ERA and pitching more like the Cole Hamels we've come to know. Eric Young will lead things off. Young has led off the first inning getting on base in 6 straight games now, and he's gotten on base at least twice in 8 straight games. So he has done a spectacular job at the top of the Mets batting order.
And if you look at Young's career numbers, they're really not impressive, but he's never had a chance at Colorado to play every day. He's been basically a platoon player. Better right-hand hitter. This is his first opportunity of playing every day, and he's ran with it. And he's starting to hit better left-handed.
Hamels gets a call. 1-1. Well, the year for Hamels could not have started worse. He actually pitched a winning game against the Mets in late April, one of only 2 wins that he had in his first 13 decisions this year. But even in that game, as Young flies one out to center and John Mayberry ambles in, and that's the first out. Even in that game, he walked 6 batters in 6 innings and didn't seem quite himself.
And we'll take a quick look at the Toyota Philly defense, brought to you obviously by Toyota. Let's go places. And well, Rollins is getting older, but he can play. Utley, that cornerstone, those 2 guys have been there, seems like forever. Gold Glover last year, 3rd time Gold Glove, I believe. Was it 3 he's got? I believe so.
Utley, a 5-time All-Star. Here's Daniel Murphy, who's riding a 9-game hitting streak, and he was stepping out as that pitch was thrown.
Something was wrong with Murph's helmet. Maybe it doesn't fit with the short locks.
Never seen Murph with the.
Watch, he takes his helmet right away. Kind of something in it, or sand, or
perhaps he had a bee in his bonnet. Curveball from Hamels in for a strike, and it's 0-2.
Speaking of bees, every year in Wrigley Field, playing September games in Wrigley, the Yellow Jackets come out. And one flew right on my nose almost against Dick Tidrow with the Cardinals. And I bailed out of that box because I have a great fear of bees. I do. Bees and wasps. Like that's my phobia.
Did they get you?
I'm so quick that bee. He missed me.
Can outrun a bee. Float like a butterfly. Murphy lines one down the right field line, and he's got himself an extra base hit. Chased in the corner by Delman Young, and Murphy cruises in with his 23rd double of the year.
Well, if you recall in April, Murph got off a real good start extra base hit wise, and there he turns on. That's not a bad pitch, really. That ball's belt high, sinking in on his hands, but Murph really was quick inside there.
Interesting in that preceding that pitch, Hamels had thrown back-to-back curveballs, a pitch that at times it seems like he abandons.
And I think it's a good pitch for him, and what he tried to do is throw that change-up bounce it, and he did. That was up in the strike zone. Good job by Murph. Murph has become really a singles hitter against left-handed pitching. It's only his 6th double. He has no home runs against left-handers this year.
So Murphy now has a 10-game hitting streak. He's the tying run in scoring position with 1 out for David Wright, who was 2 for 5 last night. Hit a 2-run homer in the 9th inning. This is Zach Wheeler between innings. After giving up the leadoff home run to Rollins, he goes to the nail file.
RJ?
I've honestly never done that on the bench, but I've seen other pitchers do it. You know, in the first inning, you'll pull a nail, get a hangnail or something, and he's trying to file it down.
Well, I can tell you Bob Emery boards and Bob Force, the late Bob Force, who pitched for the Cardinals. He would spend all 4 days of his start running filing down his index finger and his middle finger. He would file it down every day on both underneath and make it razor blade sharp, and then put Paula lacquer over it.
Yeah.
And then he'd do it every day, and so that was how he cut his ball. He had a razor sharp. He'd hold the ball in his hand, and his fingernails would be able to gouge into the ball.
Jeez. 1-2 to David, inside and low, 2-2. Well, the Mets trying to learn the strike zone of this rookie home plate umpire, Will Little. We've seen a lot of first-time home plate umpires in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it's got to be an adjustment for guys. Will Little has already shown he's searching for strikes. Called a couple of borderline pitches already, and now a full count to right.
David has had great success against Hamill. .333 with 4 home runs. That's over 57 at bats.
David starts the day 4th in the league in on-base percentage, 8th in slugging percentage. Murphy's running, and Wright fouls it off. So Murphy getting a jump on Hamels, but you like that with a 3-2 count?
I don't like anybody stealing when a hitter has 2 strikes. It's a distraction. Now, unless David had said I have no problem with it, fine. If Murph asked him, I don't know that.
Is that less of a distraction with the lefty on the mound because the field division is different?
You can see the runner going, and it can be a distraction.
He's going again, and Wright takes ball 4, and Murphy steals the base uncontested. So it's the 11th stolen base of the year for Murphy. A walk to right, and the Mets have runners at the corners for Marlon Byrd. Well, Hamels has been very vulnerable to the stolen base this year. That's the 15th he's given up in 20 tries. And now Marlon Byrd, who hit his 16th home run of the year last night, 3-run shot. He's now driven in 13 runs in his last 9 games. Trying to pick up Murphy from third. Wright's at first with 1 out. Hit hard, base hit for Byrd, and that'll tie up the game. Murphy trots in. Byrd wastes no time, drives in his 55th run of the year, and the game's tied at 1.
Well, I tell you what, if Marlon keeps it up, he's going to drive in 100 runs this season for a team that has really struggled to score runs. First pitch, fastball hitting, not wasting any time. Fastball inner half, down. Murph is not on the actually with runners on first and third. You don't want to get doubled up. Make sure the ball gets through the infield on a line drive like that.
So Murphy with a double, Wright with a walk. Byrd drives in a run with a base hit, and now Josh Satin getting the start at first base today. Satin pinch hit last night and grounded out in his only at bat, and fouls back the first pitch fastball. Satin at .355. He's hitting .448 against left-handed pitching. And Terry Collins said it in a way that was probably more definitive than he has at any time this morning, that it is now a platoon with Ike Davis and Josh Satin. He didn't use the word platoon, but he basically said Satin's going to play against lefties. That means today and tomorrow against Cliff Lee.
His fact was he deserves a chance to play. His intimation was he gives them the best chance to win.
Ike had a good night last night with the bat. Went 2 for 4. But his next start will be on Monday when the Mets face Julia Tehran and the Braves. 1-1 to Satin.
It gives a guy like Satin, who has a great eye, a little advantage. Will Little last year spent most of the season home plate umpire in the International League, so certainly was behind the plate for some of the games that Satin played with in Buffalo.
I wonder, you know, we talk all the time about players coming up from the minor leagues and sometimes changing their game because they think they have to rise to a different level. I wonder whether umpires are like that too.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether they change their game when they get to the big leagues.
I don't think they want to change their game, but they change it only because they're uncomfortable. It's a new place. Guys you've read about are right in front of you.
And also under tremendous scrutiny for the first time.
There you go.
I mean, they're being watched by evaluators in the minor leagues, but it's different when every TV eye is on you and every missed call becomes a cause célèbre.
I'd hate to get a report card coming out of this booth every day, I'll tell you that.
2-2 to Satin with 2 on and 1 out. Juan Lagares waits on deck. And he pulls the fastball foul.
Well, We talked about David Wright moving closer to the plate, getting Ike Davis to get closer to the plate. Josh Satin, that's a comfortable spot away, but we'll look at his hands. He holds his hands out over the plate a little bit. It's something that I did too in my how I held my bat. I held my bat away from my body.
I guess the question I would have with Satin, with as far over the inside corner as he's holding his bat and with all that movement, how does he get to the inside pitch?
No, that's a timing thing when you start, and that's also when you have a lot of movement, you can go into more prolonged slumps. Now, we haven't seen enough of Josh. He's come up and just done a terrific job. He's been red hot.
Runners go outside, ball 4, and the bases are loaded. So 4 straight Mets have reached. Second walk of the inning for Hamels. And Juan Lagares will come up with the bases loaded. Lagares came off the bench last night and had a couple of hits. A single and a double. This is his first start in better than 2 weeks because the Mets have not been facing much left-handed pitching lately. But over his last 8 games, Lagares is hitting .364 and has shown some very positive signs.
Well, it's very difficult for a young hitter to be in that have that kind of role, and he's really done a great job. He's gone the other way a lot, Gary, and that's why I think he's been successful. He's used that right center field and even that right field line.
Last night he had a double to right center, almost put one right on the right field line toward the corner that just missed. Bases loaded, 1 out, a run already in here in the first, and Lagares fouls it back. 0-2.
There's a pitch to hit right there, a little bit up out of the spot, up enough.
Anthony Recker, hitting 7th in the order, is on deck.
Hamels' MO. I'm certain that Lagares is going to get 1 pitch inside here at least. Although Hamels has hit 7 batters this year.
His 25th pitch of the inning already. And Lagares floats one behind first base. Rough going back. Utley, they can't get it. In to score comes David Wright. It's 2-1 New York. A little parachute that fell beyond the infielders. Lagares with an RBI, and the Mets grab the lead.
Well, you'll take it. Rich Doobie's going to come out and talk to Hamels here. This is the fastball that Ronnie called for, and good pitch, and not much you can do about this.
It's a ball that 5 years ago Chase Utley catches, but not anymore.
I mean, it seems like only yesterday Lagares was on the interstate, right? 160, 170, now close to 250.
Very quietly.
He's a kid who has worked incredibly hard. We've talked about it before. He's very, very serious, and he has taken to heart the instruction that he's gotten. He's still a very aggressive hitter, as Terry Collins acknowledged today, but he has consciously used the right side of the field, and it's really paid off for him. So now Anthony Recker with the bases still loaded. 2 runs already in. Recker's last start was 8 days ago in Pittsburgh, his 20th start of the year. Only 13 hits this year, but 5 of them have been home runs. And Hamels misses away for ball 1.
Hamels cannot find his rhythm.
We saw a red hot pitcher in Jeremy Hefner taking on the chin in the first inning last night. Hamels similarly hot before the break. He hasn't had quite as much rest. He pitched the last game before the All-Star break for the Phillies on Sunday. And he falls behind on record 2-0. So he's only had 1 extra day of rest in between starts. Last one was against the White Sox on Sunday, went 8 strong innings. A no decision game for him, gave up only 2 runs. Well, he's already given up 2 runs in the first inning today.
Ronnie, you've been in situations like this where a team really puts the pressure on you early in the first inning and you're trying to find it. What did you try to do?
There's ball 3.
You're scuffling. I mean, that's what you're trying to do. It's 2-0 there. You don't have enough confidence in your stuff that you go to a 2-0 changeup against Anthony Recker, who certainly isn't Babe Ruth. So interesting choice there by Cole Hamels, trying to trick the hitters as opposed to be aggressive.
Well, Recker will take at least 1. Here's a strike, 3-1.
There's his numbers there, Keith. To answer your question, I try to keep in the back of my mind, once I'd been in the league a few years, what's the situation? Situation calls for a ground ball. Keep the ball down, get a ground ball. Throw a strike, but concentrate on down as opposed to the corners. Get your ground ball, and hopefully it's at someone.
3-1 coming to Recker, and he loses the bat on the changeup, and it hits the top of the dugout and skims into the stands.
Well, it has been hot and humid, and I don't have to tell you folks out there, you're out there living it like we are. And it's sometimes a grip on these muggy, hot days. You really got to have that stick 'em on the bat. Good sinker.
Well, he threw him a 2-0 changeup, so I guess it shouldn't have surprised Recker too much to get a 3-1 changeup.
Oh, that guy almost got it in the chops. Oh, he is so lucky. He has no idea.
Didn't spill his beer, just a little bit.
Got him on the right shoulder. It could have been. Well, oh my gosh.
Fortunately, because the bat bounced on the dugout, it took a little steam off it.
Instead of give that fan a contract, give that fan some life insurance.
Now it's 3-2 to Recker with the bases loaded and 1 out. And Anthony grounds one down to third. Might be a double play. Double clutch by Young. Utley with a turn. Not in time. That little double clutch by Michael Young cost the Phillies a run. It's 3-1 New York.
Well, you know, when he it's too late. Once you double clutch, you can't just change gears and then throw home. I thought he might have tried it because Recker doesn't run well to go tag third, but too far away. And good hustle by Recker.
Ruff trying to cheat.
Not much of a stretch there, but he was clearly safe.
So Recker picks up his 14th RBI. 3 runs are home, and Omar Quintanilla bats with first and third and 2 out. Quintanilla 1 for 4 last night, drove in a run, and he takes the cutter outside, ball 1.
Well, this is what happened in San Francisco, Gare, when they got young Wheeler some runs early, and he just seemed to loosen up and throw the best game he's thrown all year.
That scored 3 in the top of the first inning in that game. Now 3 in the bottom of the first for Wheeler. Another cutter, this one in for a strike, 1-1. Well, Hamel's already up to 33 pitches in the opening inning. Last night, Jeremy Hefner threw 37 in a 4-run first inning. And the Mets turning the tables on Hamel's here. 2-1 to Quintanilla. Zach Wheeler, who has swung the bat pretty well, would be next if Quintanilla keeps the inning alive. Zach hit one over the center field.